Hi there folks, I hope you're all well and I hope you and your families are managing to stay clear of COVID. We are doing our damnedest here and have still managed to do so. All fully vaccinated, all fully boosted, and just try to keep our heads clear of it. So what's today's recipe? Today we are making courgette and halloumi tomato salsa. Not my particular favourite type of flavour sets, but the wife absolutely adores it and the boy quite likes it a lot too. So it's a really nice recipe, just not my wheelhouse for my favourite sets. Really easy, and again it's a nice cheap one, so let's crack on and do this. So first things first, we want to take 2 cans of chopped tomatoes and just empty them into a large mixing bowl. Straightforward as that. Now you could use fresh tomato that you've de-skinned and chopped up yourself for this, but I personally find that 99% of the time your chopped tomatoes are better than your fresh tomatoes, simply because of the breeding season for tomatoes. So next up, take 1 cannonball onion, which is the terminology I use for very large. I'm not sure if that's an official term or not. I think my Morrisons used to call these type of onions cannonballs, but I don't remember seeing it on the labels recently, so I may have just made up the name. So it's either 2 large onions or 1 cannonball onion, and roughly chop it, then add it to your tomato mixture. As I've explained before, when it comes to chopping your onion, first of all, take the top off, de-skin it, and then you're going to chop down towards the root without actually cutting the whole way through the onion, and then turn your onion 90 degrees and chop down to get your rough chops, and that's how you do it. So as you see, down towards the root, then chop 90 degrees from that, and that's you getting your rough chop. The thinner you make these cuts, the finer the chops you get. So as I've said, once your onions are rough chopped, just take and add them to your tomato mixture and then give it a good stir together with a spatula. And now take and add 3 tablespoons of dried leaf coriander. And again, take your spatula and give it a good mix together. And then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of table salt, followed by 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Again, grab the spatula, mix it all together, and now if you're wanting to, you can then set this aside and leave it in your fridge for hours. You can prep this in the morning, and that way when it comes to making your evening meal, a good portion of it has already been completed. Or crack on and make the rest straight away. We are now looking to prepare our courgettes, 700 grams approximately. So after washing them, we're going to top and tail them. If there's too much of a bend in them, half them, and if they're relatively straight, all we're going to do is slice them down their long length. After we've sliced them down their long lengths, we're going to then, as you see, cut them into chunks roughly 8 millimeters, that sort of diameter, 6 to 8 millimeters wide. Not too thick, not too thin, just a nice chunky bite size is what we're looking for. It's probably the easiest, most descriptive way I can give it to you. And once we do have them all chopped up, we're just going to set them aside in a bowl until we're ready to cook them. And now that the courgettes have been taken care of, we want to prep our halloumi. So with your knife, just open up your halloumi packet and drain it out. And once you've drained it out, we can then think about chopping it. Now I'm going to keep the video purposefully slower here just so we can see what I'm doing when it comes to actually chopping the halloumi. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn it on its side and we're going to try and slice down into the depth of it, the height. So we're going to have 2 rectangles, one sitting on top of the other. From there we then cut along the length and then 90 degrees our knife and our cutting angle, so that we're ending up with our chunks as we see in the video. These we're looking for to be about 8 to 10 millimeters wide at the most. Again, think of that bite-sized sort of texture that I was trying to describe with the courgette. Something similar, but can be slightly thicker than what the courgette was. Then once again, slide it into a bowl and store it until we're ready to use it. And now that all our ingredients have been prepped, take 4 tablespoons of olive oil. Yeah, it's quite a bit of olive oil, but that's what we need for this dish. Bung them in a large non-stick frying pan or saute pan as you see here, and then bring it up to medium sort of high temperature. We're then going to start cooking our courgettes once it's at temperature, and we're going to be cooking them for about 4 minutes each side, but we are going to keep moving our courgette around as well, just so everything's getting evenly cooked. Visually, what we're looking for is them start to turn a golden brown with brown patches on them. When we have those brown patches on a significant amount of the courgettes, it might not be every last single one due to the nature of how we're moving around and how we're cooking them, but that's what we're looking for. You also may have to do this in batches depending on the size of your pan. I'm using a 28cm saute pan, so it is quite large here. If your pan's smaller, you might need to do it in 2 or 3 batches. If you are doing it in batches, stick anything that's left over in your top oven in a suitable heat-proof dish just to keep it warm as you cycle through the batches. And once the courgettes have been cooked, we're going to use the same pan, so just transfer those courgettes out into that heat-proof pan that I've already mentioned. Bung it in the top oven if you want, or if you're doing it in one batch, you don't need to. It'll hold enough heat if it's only one batch. And we're now going to cook off our halloumi. Same sort of idea, we're going to put it all in, we're going to keep it moving around periodically just so we're getting an even heat cook throughout them. And again, we're looking for the halloumi to start browning up. When we start getting that browning up consistently across enough of them, we know the halloumi's done. When it comes to browning off your halloumi, you are going to move it a lot less than you have been moving the courgettes. So we let it sit for about a minute, then we move it, let it sit, then we move it, let it sit, then we move it. Just try and make sure each side is getting turned over so that we're browning it nice and evenly and consistently. It might mean going with tongs if that's a more comfortable method for you to turn your halloumi over. I'm quite happy with the spatula. Do what works for you and use the tool that works best for you. And as we see here, we're really now getting into that really final stage where everything's starting to look good on the halloumi. Once you've got it like this, you're there or thereabouts done. You can cook it a little bit more, you can cook it a little bit less. It's to taste and to the way you like the texture of the halloumi. We like it done this way, where it's just that nice chewy texture, that almost meaty sort of bite to the cheese. And once you're happy with how your halloumi is looking, just take and add the courgette back into the pan, mix it around, and then we're going to reheat it for just 1 to 2 minutes. Does not take long, just depends on whether you've been doing it in multiple batches or not really, but it's going to be 1 or 2 minutes. And from there, we're going to serve it on our salsa base. If you've been able to chill the salsa and it's been in the fridge, it's even nicer than leaving it at room temperature. The hot and the cold texture against your mouth and the flavour hits, it's just yummy, 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 yummy. So it is well worth chilling the salsa mix if you've got the time and if you can. You don't need to, but my personal preference is to have the chilled salsa. There we go. Another relatively easy dish to make. Not many ingredients. Not very hard to do. Just don't burn the cheese slightly like I did at the end there. I left it in just a wee bit too long, but damn tasty. It's not my usual sort of meal, it's not the sort of thing I particularly would rush to have, but the missus loves it and I really like it as well, even though I wouldn't rush to have it. Does that make sense? But really nice. Courgettes just go lovely with the cheese and the salsa. So I'm off to have my dinner. If you do make it, let us know. Subscribe, hit the wee belly thingy, and hit the like button if you like it. Thanks for watching, folks. Take care. All the best.